You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. We're back. And for the first time in a little while, if you're watching on YouTube, we're live. I'm Jack Hope, I'm joined by Ross Legg. Ross, we're going to talk about three things today. Mankads, England v Pakistan, and then India v Australia. And if you're on the podcast, we have to do the intro thing. We're going to speak to Matt Roller from ESPN tomorrow, so we're going to bundle it as one show on Monday. But if you're on YouTube, that doesn't matter. Anyway, how you doing? You having a good time?
I'm good. And if there's three topics to talk about for a cricket podcast, Mankading, England, Pakistan, Australia, India, they're pretty good ones.
I think. Someone was saying in our Discord, quick plug for that, patreon.com/the cricket pod. Someone was saying it would be great if Pakistan v England ended with a Mankad run out as well. And that, I think, would have been the greatest gift to this podcast since maybe the Gabba test. Or at least the Dust Bowl in Ahmedabad. It would have been really, really good. It wasn't. It ended with a hilarious run out, and we'll get into that. But first, Ross, I want you to talk, 15 seconds about the top messages to start the show. What's the main thing you want listeners to do right now?
I want them to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on the road to 11,000. We were on the road to 100,000, but it's far slower than we thought it would be.
Yeah.
We are also sponsored by our own Patreon.
Yeah. Well, on YouTube it says presented by Manscaped, which I think is still technically correct. So shave your testicle hair.
Yeah, get pristine balls. And we're also on Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod. So, and if you want to sign up to Patreon and get access to our Discord channel, go to patreon.com/the Cricket Pod for $4 a month.
Right, we should start off with I think the women's cricket yesterday, because that did end in spectacular style. The series was a bit of a formality win for India. I think their first win away in England, I believe, over a series. So that's good for them. England had quite a lot of players out. They played quite a young team. Inexperience showed. But really the talking point was, and we've been corrected already in the chat. Well, there's already a discussion going on in the chat. The talking point is the Mankad. I'm going to call it the Mankad, but bowler's end run out is acceptable too. I think they're kind of interchangeable games. Ross, talk us through the Mankad and your thoughts on the Mankad.
One, I love Mankads. So two, I'm fully as well. All of the stuff that's happened in the last 24 hours. For one, a cricket podcast person and a cricket fan, like this is exactly what the whole controversy should be about, right? And as Prashant has said in the chat, like, when did the England fans get so high and mighty on the spirit of cricket? Like, there's a lot of hypocrisy that's gone round in the last 24 hours, and I'm all here for it. So DT Sharma has come into bowl, and to be fair, you can see why people have got a little bit annoyed. She looks like she's fully going to bowl. Her front foot lands, and then she just turns back on herself and runs out Charlie Dean, who it was the last wicket when England needed about 17 to win off 30 odd deliveries. Yeah. The game was in the balance, and it was a case of Charlie Dean, who was on 47 out at the time, trying to get on strike. There's always question marks around trying to gain advantages, etc. Didn't pay off this time, and unfortunately, that's the way it ended, much to the chagrin of quite a big Lords fan base, but to the ecstasy of some of the Indian fans. So I think that sums it up.
Here's where we're going to have a problem here, Ross, because I also love Mankads. Often this show and podcasts in general, debates in general, work best if people take antagonistic points of view and then they have a discussion, and then some people are happy and some people can side with one person and other people can side with the other one. In this case, that just isn't the truth. I thought it was completely reasonable. I thought that she was out of her crease at the point when you could realistically expect the ball to be delivered. I thought it was really, really funny. I thought it annoyed all of the right people. And I think it's sport in a microcosm, isn't it? Or a large part of sport in a microcosm. You've got what is effectively the better batter there, Charlie Dean, has taken a risk to try and get herself back on strike so that England have a better chance of winning. The risk she's taking is leaving her crease early and trying to steal a couple of yards so that they can tap and run. And the risk didn't pay off, and that's what happens. Like it's that's how it goes. I think there are a couple of things that not annoyed me, but I can see where people can come from. But I think if you're moaning about the Mankad because of spirit of the game bullshit, to put it politely, you're in the wrong century.
I kind of take it as people who end up complaining about TV shows they haven't watched.
Yeah,
and it's that kind of like you're getting angry about something because someone has told you to get angry about something.
I think the one negative obviously is that it was set up to be quite a good finish. England had found a little bit of resistance right at the end. There's a handful of runs to win. It could have been a grandstand conclusion, and also the optics of it. The batter literally crying when the game's over, and then India doing the chair for Goswami in her last match, which should have been the story. I can see why. I don't know if you say they were negatives, but I can see the optics of that not looking as good. But I don't really think that you can look at that and be particularly judgmental from a sporting perspective. I think it was probably the right thing to do, and it meant the team won the match, didn't it? So
yeah, I mean, sometimes I can understand where people come across and go, "Do you want to win in that fashion?" But this is elite level sport, right? I think there is parts of the game which have been called into disrepute sometimes around the spirit of cricket. I mean, at the same ground, you had Dhoni calling back Ian Bell after it was dismissed when the ball could have gone for a boundary, did go for a boundary, didn't go for a boundary, he got run out. And I kind of just
that should have been out too, shouldn't it?
And there's this bit where you get this almost this arbitrary. Oh, we're like the MCC are the custodians of the spirit of the game, but they're also the same people who haven't let the women play at Lords for the last 5 years, right? And it's stuff like that where I'm sitting there. It's just that it all reeks of hypocrisy. And I think if an England player did it to an Indian player, would there be the same uproar? Not sure, right? I think sometimes England fans
it wouldn't have happened because nobody English has ever done anything wrong.
Yeah, and that is the attitude, right? And I think sometimes it winds people up because it's been done to England. I'm just like, it happens. What I did like was that Charlie Dean was the person who got given out. She might not have agreed with it, but she was straight over, shaking the hands, kind of taking it on the chin, and being like, "Look, this is what it means to play professional sport." And hopefully that adds a bit more charge to the next time England and India are playing against each other, right? There's a bit more drama, a bit more tapestry to what's actually happening.
Anything else you want to say on this? Daniel Berger requested on Twitter that we talked about it, and I asked for questions, so I think we have. I'd shout out to them anyway. Anything else? It was a good innings, wasn't it, from Charlie Dean?
Really good. I mean, I was really impressed. And today she was playing in the AO Flint final.
Oh, did you see what she did?
And she faked did it. Yeah, so she gave another batsman, which you've got to take like that as that, like the amount of character that shows. I think that is potentially future kind of captaincy material. She's only 21, and learn a lesson from that, right? And I think people need to get off their high horses. What the Cricket Podcast is saying about Mankads.
Yeah, I think I'm glad it happened. I'm glad. Ross, next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan v England. It is 2-2. I think the last podcast we did was when it was 1-1. We're not going to talk about each game in loads of detail. And as I said, we've got Matt Roller to give us the inside track on what it's like being in Pakistan and what the teams are thinking and so on. But it was. We should probably talk about today's game because it was an absolute romper. Can you describe it in 30 seconds, and then we'll talk about some thematic stuff.
Yeah, so it was kind of a classic Pakistan T20 performance, really. It was rely on one of the opening batsmen to hit quite a few of the runs, and the other one kind of chips in, and then some lower order hitting off a batsman who probably should have been in a few overs earlier because people have ball eaten, gets them up to around the 160 mark. I think the final ball of the innings was hit for 6 by Asif Ali, and it was going to be a competitive total on that pitch and on that wicket. But England faltered. They were 14 for 3. Again, they're mixing their lineup. They're kind of England. Are they just giving people a go in the team, or are actually they trying to form a team of what it could look like, if that makes sense? It's probably something we can talk about in a second. But again, some middle order runs for the informed Ben Duckett. Harry Brook also continuing his bit of form, but kind of batted much slower than he did previously and struggled a little bit. And then Moeen was at his fluent best. But at the same time, Pakistan kept on taking wickets. And that was really important. As Liam Dawson got towards the end, looked like he was going to bring England home. And Liam Dawson proving he's England's nearly man in more ways than one. He bottled it pretty much. And then Reece Topley decided to do one of the worst run-outs I've seen in a while. Full number 11 panic. And yeah, Pakistan get across the line.
Yeah, it was. If anything, I wonder. Thinking about Reece Topley here, I wonder whether he saw how funny it was yesterday and the social media meltdown and everything, and he thought, I want a bit of this. I'm going to do a tribute to the run out that ended yesterday's game by hitting the ball to a man standing by the stumps and then trying to run myself. It was a really weird game. I mean, I think England in a couple of matches in this series have tipped their hand, so to speak, and played teams that really aren't properly set up for winning the here and now match that they're about to play. And I think probably today was the most extreme example of that. If you look through, I mean, we can go through or more or less the entire 11. Phil Salt, Hales, Will Jacks, Ben Duckett, Harry Brook. I don't know if any of those 5 will definitely be in England's starting 11 at the World Cup. Brook is probably closest, and I think Bairstow's injury might free up the spot for Brook. But it might not. They might play Stokes instead of him, and then the whole 5 isn't playing. Moeen Ali, we're pretty sure Moeen Ali's going to play. Then the bottom 5: Willie, Dawson, Adil Rashid, Ollie Stone, Reece Topley. I think you'd say Topley and Adil Rashid are in, and the other 3 are probably not in.
David Willey, I think, has done reasonably well, and he offers a little bit more with a bat than Topley does. But Topley, in the last couple of months, has proven he's really useful. And you saw it in the last game. Mark Wood played. They're blooding them back in, right? They've had serious injuries, and they're coming back in. Ollie Stone today, the same. So, yes, it's a bit of a licorice all sorts of a team right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing with it is probably because they are literally just giving some people a go. I'm not even sure they're like giving people a go with particular roles in mind. I think they're just saying, "Come in and play a match for us, please," and then head off and do something else in the evening, I guess.
It's still producing good cricket matches.
It was. Well, yeah, we should talk about the game, because it did, the last 3 overs, it yo-yoed all over the place. I mean, Pakistan getting up to 166 was a pretty good effort from them in the end, because they weren't going to get to that score. And then they bowled really well. And then a guy called Liam Dawson, as they were saying on commentary, Dawson. Well, not the guy, we know who Liam Dawson is. 34 of 17. He dismantled a Hasnain over. I'd go as far as saying, Ross, that this Hasnain over might have been the worst over I've ever seen anyone bowl in a T20 match. It was like Odin Smith had turned up, and it was like banging it in halfway down. Like, Liam Dawson's a player. He's a decent player, but he's not 5 consecutive boundaries. That's not something you think of when you think Liam Dawson, but he does that, and he actually takes England to the jaws of victory, 9 off 3, and then Harris Ralph bowls like an equally good over to cancel out the awful over from Hasnain. And then once Pakistan take those 2 wickets, it's a cliche, but everyone knew what was going to happen. Like, it was pretty clear that Pakistan were going to win that match, even though England only needed to find 1 boundary to seal the deal. Pakistan, they're probably a more complete team, and I think we can talk about them with maybe a better understanding of the direction they're heading in. And it seems to be like a bazillion anchors, and then let's hope Asif Ali does something right at the end to get us to like a slightly above average score. Which of the anchors is your favourite anchor? Is the question I'm going to ask you.
Well, everyone obviously loves Babar. Rizwan is one of my favourites just because he looks like a little frog with his green gloves behind the wicket when he's keeping. But them playing Shan Masood, who's ripped up the county championship with Derbyshire this year, is excellent. I think that's a great top three. I think for a team who wants to play relatively conservative, and Pakistan are a good T20 team. I think they could be better. There's the opportunity to be better, but they are almost trying to say we want to be consistently hitting the 160, 170. That is what we want to get every single game. It's going to give us the most opportunity to win because we feel we have the bowling for it. They're kind of like the Sunrisers of when Sunrisers were good, not shit as they have been recently. That's what they're trying to go for. They're trying to play safe T20 cricket, and that's okay because I think that can work in a tournament setting.
Yeah. No, I thought you were going to make more of a point there, and then you just stopped.
I was going to encourage to see if you were going, you know what, I think they are doing that, or you're just saying they don't have the players to be more explosive. So that's what I was trying. I was going to see if.
Well, Dan and I talked about this earlier in the week, and I think it's sort of a combination of both things. Tymon Mills was talking about his experience in the PSL and how some teams turn up and their whole top order are overseas players, and all of the bowling and middle order and the wicketkeeper is not the middle order, the all rounders are Pakistan players, and I think there's it's like it's a fulfillment of a prophecy if you set up a league and this is what you do with the overseas players, because it means you don't have to, or you never really have any compulsion to produce players that do anything besides strike rotate and set the game up for David Visa. And I do think so. I think at a national team level, it probably is that they don't have the players that they can bring in. And if you look at the data for the PSL, they have picked basically the only guys that do actually strike at 150. They have been in the team in this tournament and at the Asia Cup. But they just don't have a pool of these guys. So it is like Asif Ali and that's sort of it.
And that's why I don't really mind it, right? So I think it's annoying when a franchise team sets up in that way, but a franchise has the opportunity to pick players, has the opportunity to drop. Pakistan are going, oh, we can only play these people from Pakistan. This is all we've got, right? I think that is the slight nuance. If someone's going to start criticising around, well, you don't like Sunrisers, but you're saying Pakistan's approach isn't that bad. And I think Pakistan are trying to make the most out of their parts, right? And I think they're doing a pretty good job at it. We saw last year at the World Cup, they're going, that got us pretty damn close. We think using the same technique will get us close again in Australia. And I also like the fact that they are playing pretty much the same team on repeat. They're trying to build a team that knows what it's doing together.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say from a Pakistan point of view is that I don't know if this bowling attack is quite good enough without Shaheen to be a team that defends 165 regularly. I don't see Mohammed Hasnain as currently as a consistent international bowler.
Again, it's very suspect, mate. I watch it and I want to believe he's.
You're going to go there.
I'm going to go there. I'm going to go. I've been nice.
We've done Mankad.
Yeah. But Hasnain, it does seem to me like the action isn't all there. It doesn't seem like it's a legit action, but maybe we don't go into that today.
Marcus Stoinis.
But is Shaheen Afridi likely to come back for the World Cup?
I don't think so. So my understanding is that actually the injury is quite a lot worse than they thought. But for what reasons known only to Pakistan, when he got the injury, they didn't do a proper medical check for like 2 weeks afterwards. So it's only I think during or just before the Asia Cup, or just after the Asia Cup, maybe, that they sent him to London to see a specialist to actually look at what the damage is. And it's really hard to get like consistent information out of a in a second language. Like, we don't speak Urdu, so I have to ask Haider for stuff from our cricket team. And then beyond that, you don't have like a traveling press corps or anything like that you would have with, say, England or Australia, where somebody would ask the question, when is that guy going to come back and play for us? So I think what I'm saying is that how long's a piece of string is the answer.
That's fair. And another big concern for them is that Shadab Khan is also not playing, right?
Yeah, is he injured? I'm assuming
he's injured. So he got a head injury in the last Asia Cup game.
Okay,
it's been kind of ruled out. So I think he's trying to get back. But again, there's no dead cert for being involved. But as you say, you don't have that information that is bubble wrap. So we literally get what is written on the internet from some people and what we hear on Twitter and wherever else. So they are two big misses. But I think this lineup, the lineup is still good. Like Harris Ralph is a serious bowler. Like he is definitely one of the picks for one of the better pacers in the world. I think their spin contingent is canny, is the word I would use for those guys. And when you look at some of the others where it's kind of what's his name, the young guy Naseem, there is options there. But without Shadab and Shaheen, it's a big ask to win a tournament.
One of the I don't want to divert us too much, but Iftikhar bowling all 4 overs as a frontline bowler and doing quite well, it doesn't reflect well on England.
And that's where I think Pakistan have actually been quite good in terms of who they've bowled their people at. And that's where I think that sometimes England try to do it and they get certain things wrong at certain points. I get every team do. But if you look at who he was bowling at today, again, he's bowling to the right people. He's bowling to the left-handers, as far as I could tell. And that's what they were trying to do. Even though Moeen Ali is good against spin and Ben Duckett's good against spin, they're trying to bowl off spin to the left-handers, and actually it worked out okay. So I
think it was partly that. I think it was partly that like England were rebuilding for quite a long time. Anything from the other matches that they played that you want to bring up and talk about? Harry Brook, we haven't really discussed. He looked sensational in 2 of the 3 innings. Less sensational today, but batting in probably in a scenario where being sensational was not the main requirement, but really, really pushing his case for World Cup inclusion. We keep comparing him to AB de Villiers on this show because Faf du Plessis did, but you could actually genuinely see it in that innings where he got 80. He was all round the clock. He was like guides to third man, 4s flicked over the keeper's head, like cover drive 6s, pulls for 6 over square leg. Is he England's next big thing?
By the looks of it, right, the hype is there to be believed. I think we're seeing him bat reasonably well. You're going to sometimes have shit innings like he had one today. Even the best batsmen have them continuously. But when it comes to it, like, because he's so tall and how wristy he is, I see Kevin Peterson. Like when I'm watching it bat, I see like some of his shots. I'm just like, that is a Kevin Peterson shot. And you've got a guy here who has been raised watching someone like Kevin Peterson, AB de Villiers, and he's put that together. You created a pretty bloody good cricketer there if you're going to be based on them. But at the moment, he looks right at home. But so has some of the other England players. Like Will Jacks might have got a 0 today, but looked really good yesterday. Or whenever he played.
That's T20, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? People are making that step up on the batting front, and England's depth there is quite good. But how you put that jigsaw puzzle together, as you said, is if he does come in, if Stokes plays, like I'd be surprised if Stokes isn't in the starting 11 in the World Cup, just because he is Ben Stokes. I don't think statistically he should be there. I think there's better players, but
it's quite difficult not to pick Ben Stokes though.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean.
From a narrative perspective, like Stokes has been involved in maybe the 3 most famous matches, or the most famous match in all 3 formats, and not only that, has been like the main event in all 3 of those matches as well. Like getting bombed by Carlos Brathwaite and then taking down New Zealand more or less single-handedly, and then Headingley. Like they're arguably the three best or three most famous matches. The last 10 years, the Gabba tests in there. There've been some other pretty decent 20s.
Yeah, Pereira's rearguard innings.
There's some stuff, but like Stokes really has.
But that's what happens with great players, right? He almost transcends the sport at times, and that's what happens. And
it's difficult to not want him to be in the team from that point. I don't think he is. I think what you're saying is correct. I think statistically, probably he isn't, but. It is good.
All right, very difficult to leave him out.
We've got two questions on England, one from Ben Smith and one from JM, and I'm going to roll them into the same question. Actually, I'm going to ask them separately. Curran v Jordan or neither for England's T20 starting lineup?
So Jordan, I thought actually was looking reasonably good. I think he regained a bit of form, and I think actually the experience on that front means he's useful. Again, it would come down to matchups for me. It depends on what what batting lineup the opposition had, and if they had more people that suited playing against left-handers, then you go the other way, more suited on that right. England also do have a problem with death overs. So regardless of who bowls it, having someone who has that experience of even going at 35 in a semi-final, whatever it is, actually might go in his favour. And England have trusted in him for England have trusted in him for a lot of this period, but again. They need to start taking the emotion out of things, but experience in high pressure games goes a long way, I think. Ben
Smith says, secondly, basically, I'm just going to ask you this.
On selection, I meant that, by the way.
Yeah.
So experience, I didn't mean personally. I would go with this, who's got the better matchup against their lineup.
Ben Smith basically asked, what's the ideal top 6 or 7? And maybe extend that for England. Yeah, what will England? So I think the last 3 matches. They're changing cities to Lahore. I think from Karachi. It could be the other way around. And the rumor is that England are going to play the big squad for the final 3 matches and like actually play to win those games. If you are Matthew Mott, who by the way called Adil Rashid Khan in the post match press conference. No, literally happened. Literally happened.
Like, come on, mate.
Who are you picking? Who's opening the batting? Start off with that.
Josh Buttler, his first name on the team sheet. He is absolutely ridiculous. And then if you're picking Ben Stokes opens the batting for me for England.
Yeah, I think they might do that. David Milan at 3.
David Milan comes in at 3. And I just think it's in Australia. Milan's record in Australia is bloody good. The game suits him as well because of the bounce and whatever else. But that said, Alex Hales has got an even better record in Australia. But I just don't. I think if they're tossing up between Ben Stokes and Hales for opening the batting, I would pick Hales over Stokes, but never mind.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 3. You're not really sure. Is what you're saying there.
No, it's a really really tough one.
Not Phil Salt.
No, Phil Salt. No,
okay.
Not. I think Phil Salt is a selfless opener. I like his approach, but he's not first name of the team. He's not in the first 11 for me.
4, 5, and 6. Livy. Moeen. Brooke.
I would pick. Liam Livingstone. Pretty damn good that, I can't really disagree on that one. If I'm perfectly honest.
I think there's the possibility that they pick like Hales to open the batting, or whoever to open the batting, and then Stokes instead of Brooke in middle order. I can see England doing that. Doesn't necessarily. I
could also see them extending it though. So it could be a case of Josh Buttler, Hales, Milan.
Yeah.
Stokes comes in at 4, Livingstone's at 5. Brooks at 6, Moeen's at 7, or something along that. Yeah. So I don't think they could do that.
Good players to fit in. 7, that's like the Sam Curran role where he might bowl and he can slog it, which I don't really hate. I think Sam Curran's quite good at that. Would you go away from that, or would you be okay with it?
There's a question mark there around who's a better player, him or David Willey.
I think Curran, better batter, and I think that's a batting role.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay.
8.
All right. Probably Adil Rashid. Probably in there. So I'd have.
Just do the bowling unit, and then it doesn't really matter what way batting.
Mark Wood plays.
Yep. Yeah, I'd definitely.
Adil Rashid plays for me, and then Reece Topley plays for me as well.
So you pick 10 men there. That means you've got a bonus man to pick.
A bonus man, do I?
Yeah, you've got a bonus man. Normally we have 11.
Oh, okay. Oh, but I've gone all the way down to 7. So 8 for me was Sam Curran in your lineup.
Okay. So you are. Yeah, well, you picked Stokes
Um,
twice. You've really fucked this whole game.
I haven't. I've got Butler,
Yeah.
Hales,
Yeah.
Milan,
Okay. Right.
Stokes, Livingston, Brooke, Moeen, Sam Curran, Mark Wood, Adil Rashid, Reece Topley.
Okay.
That's
So
my 11.
I'm not doing that. I'm going with whatever top six I had. Sam Curran at 7.
Yeah.
Chris Jordan at 8.
They're not bad. Number 8, not a bad. They can biff it.
Yeah. And then Wood, Topley, Adil Rashid. But I also accept Wokes at number 8, I think. And no, it's tricky. It's tricky. Being a selector is really hard for a team where you have got quite a lot of good players, if not loads of good bowling. Maybe let's just pick 11 batters and see what happens.
All the evidence suggests that bowlers win the tournaments, and we're just like batsmen.
That's tricky. Right. Well, we're going to talk about India and Kohli and all of that now. Before we do, we've got quite a few people watching. 129. That's a fairly healthy number. But only 38 people have liked the video, Ross. That's disgusting behaviour. Come on,
lads.
Come on, audience.
And lasses. Yeah, like it and share it with your friends.
Like it, share it with your friends. That's a good thing. All the interactions and stuff. There's a big lively debate about like Mankads and stuff. In the chat, Ross, you've been messaging along with that.
Yeah, I know. And
this is boring podcast.
Tim Wilson-Davis, big Milan buyer. I like Milan too. I thought it was a hard done by for England in the longer format.
Cool. So let's talk India v Australia today. It started, and I think I'm not exaggerating this. I'll do the little summary. It started with a bang. Cameron Green was on 12 off the first 3 balls of the match. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who actually suddenly has gone from India's best bowler to the man that everyone wants to drop for Deepak Chahar. It's a fickle world. I mean, being an Indian player is that's an emotional roller coaster. 12 off the first one. Bhuvi doesn't even finish his full set of overs. He bowled 3 overs, 39 for 1. But we're jumping around a little bit there. Cam Green, he gets 52 off 21. I think it was a 19-ball half century, so he slowed down. Finch was rubbish. He didn't do anything. Steve Smith was rubbish. He didn't do anything. That's another shock, yeah. Glenn Maxwell ran out 6 off 11. So despite Cameron Green playing an insane innings, Australia were actually in a fair bit of bother. Josh Inglis was there. He didn't do anything particularly amazing. Tim David rescued things. That's a terror. It's not the greatest summary ever. Tim David rescued things. There were 2 good things. Tim David and Cameron Green. If you're Australian, Akshar Patel continued his Jadeja tribute act in reasonable style. 3 for 33. Except that Akshar Patel, he opens the bowling. He's a bit more of a power play guy, isn't he? So he doesn't do the Jadeja special, bowl the 7th over, and then be like, oh, look how good my figures are, lads.
I've got a sword action when I hit some runs.
I have a feeling. I think that Australia might not be playing him that well, as well. Akshar Patel, good bowler, but basically takes no wickets in the IPL. I don't think there should be. There shouldn't be a scenario in my book where Akshar Patel is dismantling your batting lineup consecutive matches. Where Akshar Patel is the key player in an 8 over a side match. This 30-second summary is getting really long now.
Yeah, you've not. We're rudderless without Max Brown.
Yeah, we bully him into doing it because when we do it, we just ramble. Here's the good bit. Virat Kohli got 63 or 48. Then he walked off. I think Matt Hayden said, "Brilliant match-winning innings. One of the greatest knocks, a masterclass." The hyperbole train had left the station. It was madness. We'll talk
that's
about.
That's what happens when you don't make notes.
We'll
that
talk.
Is genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about the value of a 63 from 48 in a chase of 187 in a moment, and I think it will be a good discussion. But the same 2 guys who win every match for India with the bat won them this match, basically. It's Surya Kumar Yadav got 69 off 36, and Hardik got 25 off 16, including one pretty cool 6 where he I back-foot punched Hazelwood back over his head with an over, or with not long to go. Hazelwood's crap now, by the way, Ross. So Zampa.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So we have to throw everything out after just one or two T20 games.
So he's got to go. Cam Green with the ball. This guy, let's start with Cam Green.
Mm-hmm.
3 overs, 14 for none. That's pretty good. Cameron Green IPL auction, under over 15 crore.
Oh, that is. Yeah, he's probably going to go over based upon what Chris Morris went for, based upon what Kyle Jameson went for. Like, he's definitely. I think he's in that ballpark, Jack.
I think he could be. I think he could break all sorts of records because there's like a few teams that could do with him. I think. I'm still. I almost can't believe my eyes. That's an exaggeration. Like his record in T20 cricket just actually isn't good, Ross.
I know, but what's happened is if you hit runs and you take wickets or do well against India, that's all that matters. You don't look at the book. You just like, God, do you know when he ran us close or when he beat
It's
us?
his international record now averages 30 at 193.
Not that bad. I'll be taking that.
And his bowling is not too bad as well. But someone is gonna spend an absolute fortune on him. He's a freak. He's a freak of nature. How much would you spend on him? Say you're Sunrisers this auction. You sell. Yeah. You can do what you want. You can rip up the team, but one of the stipulations is that you're going to have to buy a Cam Green, which ruins the game a little bit because you can't say I wouldn't buy him, and it also just means you're going to pay a little bit more from the second best. But what do you expect to pay for him?
It's a difficult one because he's a bit of an unknown quantity, right? Like again, T20 is a high variance game. If you're then building a franchise for the next kind of 2 or 3 seasons around 2 performances from Cam Green, and you're then going, we're going to spend 13, 14 crore on this bloke, I think that's a big ask. Like at the moment, I'm not too sure if he's kind of like in the, and no disrespect, but in the Mitch Marsh category.
Oh, you think he might be marshy?
I think he might be in that kind of category. Like he's going to have a couple of good seasons here and there, but he's also going to have some pretty big shockers. So I reckon around that 8-9 crore mark would probably be about fair. I reckon.
Okay. Well, let us know in the chat what you think he'll go for, and we'll do wisdom of the crowds, and we'll estimate that way. The other big thing from this match is obviously Virat Kohli. First of all, Ross, he did bat quite well, didn't he? And do you think he is back properly now? Is this
So Aditya has immediately taken away my first talking point, right? Like sometimes when you lose your openers, like there has to be someone who is leading that rebuild. And we've talked so many times about Virat Kohli on this podcast that he is the best version of a Virat Kohli role that you want, right? He is the original OG. And I think that at the moment he is going. I don't want to come across as Sam Allardyce here, but he's gone back to basics. He's gone back to playing like the cricket shots that he is good at, and they are reaping rewards. He's playing conventionally, and he's just like, I can kind of do this. He's doing it against a pretty good bowling lineup as well, and yeah, the century got the monkey off his back, so to speak, and it's great for India just ahead of this World Cup. The hyperbole train that follows him round is challenging when you're trying to offer a bit of a different opinion, because I think the Virat Kohli stands, they just want to believe the hype, right? And they want to believe the hyperbole. But they're also the same people who've said that he's been okay, he's untouchable for the last 3 years of him hitting no runs, which is fundamentally just not true. So, yeah, it's a tough one, but he's got the World Cup. He's got a bit of form. I'm not going to say he's back or not, but yeah, I think he's on an upward trajectory right now.
Here's what I think. I think he's a perfectly fine T20 player, quite average. And I think the innings he played today, despite what Matt Hayden would have you believe, I reckon is probably net neutral in terms of outcome. In fact, he hit his second last ball for 6. If he top edged that and it had been caught, he would have had 57 or 47. In a chase, but he didn't. He did hit for 6, and you have to give him credit there. I reckon if you get 63 from 4 or 63 or 48 in a chase of 187, then you are more or less, you haven't really given anything or taken anything away from your team. The rest of the team has to get 125 off 72 balls with 9 wickets. That's effectively the situation you've created. How often do you think teams win that? 12 and over with 9 wickets, over 12 overs.
Pretty good.
Yeah, 60% of the time. So maybe it's slightly above average score then. If you're chasing 187, that's you're probably got a 45% chance of winning that match. So maybe it's a little bit above average what Virat Kohli did. I don't think it was amazing. I think the real hard work, as I said in the summary, is done again by India's 2 best players, Surya Kumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya, who combine for 94 off 52. It's got way more runs and four balls more for the loss of the same number of wickets.
The question mark for me, Jack, comes back to KL Rahul's role in this side, and it continued to winds me up because we get he's coming back from a relatively long-term injury, got a bit unlucky with COVID when he was on his way back and all that kind of stuff. But against the big boys, KL Rahul has struggled the last few years, and it must be a note of worry for them at the moment, especially when Kohli was used as an opener and hit a century not too long ago.
Yeah, I think there's probably room for only one of them in the team if you want to play the best Indian side. I would probably pick KL Rahul over Kohli, but I don't know. I think people will be like, oh, KL Rahul's recent ODI record or T20 record, IT20 record is no good. But I think KL Rahul is a better player in T20 cricket than Kohli. And I think his IPL stats show that. I think both are quite overrated in terms of what they actually bring to a team.
Sometimes it's like you want us to get hits, and then other times you just want to kick listeners out.
Well, no, it's true. It is true. Like they way overvalue their wicket. They overvalue how important their particular contribution is, and Kohli to some extent I think is prepared or seems to have been prepared to address that. Like he did hit 4 6s today. That's decent.
You're taking that. I think.
But he only hit 3 4s, so he hit 7 boundaries. It's a pretty low boundary strike rate. He can make up for that to some extent because he does score a lot. He rotates the strike very well. But it's not. It's very, very far from a match-winning inning. Surya Kumar Yadav has done all the hard work. He's batting at 4. If KL Rahul does something similar to Kohli, because they're both going to bat the same way, contrary to what people think, this is what happens every time Kohli bats this innings. In fact, this is probably the upper end of what happens when Kohli bats. Every time they do it, every time both of them play, this is how they bat. If they chew up 70 balls between them, India will lose this match. It's actually they've been lucky in some recent matches that they've lost wickets early enough that Surya Kumar Yadav has been coming in at effectively 3 at the entry point of a number 3. He's faced some power play balls and had a little bit more of a run at it. And same for Hardik. Hardik's been able to come in matches where he's been able to make a big difference. 60. Where did he come in this match? Looking here, so with 6 overs to go, decent entry point. You want Hardik to come in with between probably 10 and 6 overs to go, and that happened. But I think it's just down to dumb luck really that the openers haven't fired.
I use their team a little bit.
I use fired. I don't really mean fired. But India, they are Sky and Hardik are so good that that India could win the World Cup just because of them. And Kohli's not bad. They're like average players, basically.
Okay, well, I also think that it changes the need for their lineup the way it is, right? You're picking people in their team for kind of some of their batting, and I think you're not getting the most out of it. But it is what it is. Like we can't change it. I think we're diving into a match.
Well, if we don't offer
they have won, if they had lost and you had this innings and people said it was a really good innings, like it wasn't.
Yeah.
I've lost you.
No, I'm still here. I was just making a noise. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to get some disagreement about that. Other people were saying that he he judged his innings really well, and he attacked the power play, and then he eased off when Surya Kumar Yadav was batting at the other end. It's like, well, again, like if this innings was viewed in isolation, maybe you have something. Maybe you've got a point there, but it isn't. You can view it not in isolation. You can look at what Kohli and King Legend do in every match they play in, and it is basically this, unless it's against a demoralised Afghanistan, when maybe they kick on a little bit. Anything else that we want to talk about, Ross? Because we have done now 45 minutes, which is probably Ross.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Why is Steve Smith still playing T20 cricket for Australia?
Let's do Australia really quickly. Like, they would be a really good team if they got rid of that old man. If they got rid of Steve Smith and Finch, and like imagine they bring Warner in for Finch, and it's Cam Green and Warner opening the batting, you're thinking that's fucking good. And also one of them, then you've got like a top 6 frontline bowler almost in Cameron Green. Then you can play
Mitch Marsh comes in.
Well, say you play Marsh at 3, or you play Stoinis at 3, and then you've got the rest of the team as it is. You have, I think, probably the best international T20 team. You've got to, for all the criticism we've just given KL Rahul and Kohli, I'm being clear here. I think they're fine international T20 players. I think they're perfectly passable in those roles. I think they could do more. I think they have the talent to do more. I think India have other better options. But they're not objectively bad cricketers. Steve Smith, as you pointed out there, is objectively bad at this format. And Australia could definitely do better. And I don't think it's a talent thing. I don't think Steve Smith's got the game to kick on. I think it just be shuffled off. Maybe they will. I don't know. I don't know how cutthroat they'll be. What do you reckon?
Well, as Prasad highlights in the chat, Cam Green's not even in the World Cup squad that was announced about 5 months ago for Australia.
Yeah, well, that's going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's that bit that all of the international T20 teams could optimise their lineup in some way or another. I think is a problem with T20 international cricket. And I still think they've got a great chance of retaining the trophy. I think India have got a great chance of winning it as well. I'll be very surprised if those two teams aren't in the semi-finals. But it's the Catalina wine mixer, mate. You have no idea what's going to happen.
I'd have those two as
T20 cricket, baby.
I'd have those two as the favourites. England as third, and then I think Pakistan and South Africa have got a chance as well, and maybe the dark horse is Sri Lanka. I don't really rate the Kiwis.
I just think that playing in Australia is a different game. Isn't it?
Right, Ross, we've got 2 questions from Patreon. So just a quick plug for our Patreon. If you like our content, you like the show, the best thing you can do to support us is head over to patreon.com/thecricketpod in the show notes. We do a monthly bonus show. We've got some IPL data up there. We've got a thriving Discord channel where we chat about cricket all the time. You get access to all of that from £4 a month. 2 questions. So Sudeep asks sort of a general question about Cam Green and whether he can come into the World Cup squad. I think we've covered that. But he also asks another one. Is Bhuvi still in India's best bowling lineup?
Yes, he is.
I think so too.
Bumrah came back, went for 15 most expensive bowling figures that he's ever had in the T20 International, but he's coming back from injury. Bhuvi in this lineup again. It's just sometimes things go against you.
Yeah, I think India don't have to panic on the bowling front. Bhuvneshwar.
No. Do not bring in Mohammad Shami. That's all I need to say. Do not bring in Mohammad Shami. Don't need to do it.
I can see. If I were them, I would have Bhuvi, Bumrah, Harshal Patel, because he can bat at number 8. I think it's Harsh and Arshdeep, who doesn't get in the team, who's maybe a better bowler but can't bat, and then Chahal, and then make up the overs with Akshar and Hardik, I guess.
Even give Virat an over.
Give Virat an over. Bowl Virat. And then,
that's what we want to see more of.
And then Vijay, this is, I want your best psychology here. India in bilaterals and India in World Cups. Why is there such a contrast? Do we have a theory? Ross, what's your theory?
So I think the pressure is definitely on one. So obviously we had Cheteshwar Pujara on the show, 2 shows ago. So if you want to go back and listening to that, we literally had Pujara, India's opening batsman right now in Test cricket, on the show. And we kind of talked about how do you deal with the pressure in that environment, and like they are
Yoga
the way
is the answer.
yeah, yoga and meditation, and I think that pressure at the World Cup is like England in football World Cups. England have had a great set of players over the years, and never won kind of what they needed to, well, in theory, what needed to win, right? And the pressure on that environment was so much, and I feel that India are kind of in that same bubble. Like bilaterals, actually, they've got that level of expectation to win, but people, it's not do or die. If India don't win the World Cup or don't at least get to the final, cricket is over. It kind of seems with the people we've engaged with, and I think it's that part. So that they need a coach and a captain who can take that away from some of the players, take that pressure away, and be able to deal with it that way. And maybe they have that in Rohit and Dravid this time around.
Someone says, well, Raj says, "Oh wow, Pujara here." Yeah, literally where I'm sitting now, I was speaking to Pujara.
Yeah, literally, go onto our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and you can go watch that video right now.
Right, Ross, we're going to wrap up this. If you're on the podcast, we should have. I mean, like, you never know what happens, schedules and stuff. He was travelling. We should be speaking to Matt Roller about answers, some bonus stuff there, and we'll put out a video for that later on. Thanks for joining us, everyone. You know what, Ross? I really enjoyed these T20s. I think I like T20 cricket more than Test cricket at the moment. I thought the England v South Africa series was absolutely shit.
Do you reckon there's going to be more 7-game series?
I don't know if I want loads of 7-game series, but I thought both the matches today had drama and quality and full crowds going ballistic, and it's like some of that Test cricket against South Africa. Anyway, on that bombshell, as my broadcasting hero Jeremy Clarkson would say, we're out of here.